It's a pleasure to recognize Mr. Flores from Texas for his 5 minutes of questions, and thank you for your patience.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Chairman, and thank the panel for putting up with us. I mean, you've been here for an incredibly long session. I'd like to continue the discussion that Mr. Gianforte and Mr. Bellaracas started about what happens with our ability to continue being the most innovative pharmaceutical market in the world. Because under the Pelosi plan, it is a Pelosi plan, it's not this committee's plan, it's a Pelosi plan. Under that, there is a provision to negotiate prices. I think some of us maybe could find a way to get comfortable with negotiating prices, but it's got to be done in a way that's fair. Not the way the VA does it, where veterans don't have access to 48% of the pharmaceuticals that the rest of the country has. Not in an environment where you have a 65% to 95% excise tax. So, Dr. Ippolito, what would a 65 to, I think you've already answered the question that a 65 to 95% excise tax would drive innovation to other markets. Is that still your position?
Yeah, I think there's no question. If the penalty is 65 to 95% of your gross revenue, which is going to be more than once you get to 95%, it's going to be more than all of your net revenue.
Right. So, if you're whether you're a large pharmaceutical company or you're a couple of folks in a garage that have found a new way to treat a serious disease, and you go either to your investment committee in the big pharmaceutical company, or you go to your venture capital or private equity community as the small folks for funding, they're going to say, yeah, fine, we'll do it, but don't develop the IP in the United States, develop it somewhere else. And I think that if you look at the countries that have really made a focused effort to try to develop IP when it comes to pharmaceuticals, is China and India. And so that raises a whole new issue. I mean, would you support that thesis that the IP is going to be developed somewhere else?
So I guess I don't know as much about literally the legal ramifications of where exactly it's developed, but there's no question that, you emphasize the small biotechs. That's really where this kind of uncertainty over pricing and what's going to happen is going to really be felt.
Because their funding source is going to demand that they go somewhere else.
Their funding sources are quite mobile.
And as a person who used to be funded by private equity, I know that they always go to the place that's going to provide the least risk and the highest return. And so since we're talking about the fact that it could wind up in China or India, let's talk about China and drug safety there for a minute. 80% of the ingredients in U.S. branded pharmaceuticals come from China today because they've made an overt effort to invest in this space and to drive U.S. manufacturers out of business. And so I've got several examples, two of which affect me personally. The first example is heparin, which doesn't affect me personally, but we know that we had 81 deaths from that in 2007, 2008. Then a couple that affect me personally, and for hypertension, losartan, it was recalled because it had NMBA in it, which is a carcinogen. And I think that one of the things that's used in is rocket fuel. So the replacement drug was valsartan. And then it got recalled later because it was contaminated with NDMA. And so if you think about the impact that bad policy on pricing could have in terms of the safety of health care for Americans, it's pretty profound. So with that, Madam Chair, I'd ask unanimous consent to enter a few articles into the record. The first is from the South China Morning Post, dated July 18th of 2018. It says, Chinese blood pressure pills sold in U.S. recalled over cancer-linked ingredient. Mm-hmm. The next one is August 14th, 2018, from NBC News. Says FDA recalls were a reminder that China controls much of the world's drug supply. Mm-hmm. And one of the lines in here about this says, because they are toxic to the DNA, you have to control them. The next one is from WebMD, dated November 19th, 2018, and it talks about the challenges American drug companies have because their drugs are coming from overseas. Another one dated January 14th, 2019, from USA Today, blood pressure drug recall, FDA investigates foreign plants that made drugs with cancer-causing impurities. Then the next one's from Bloomberg, dated January 30th, 2019, said how a tainted heart drug made in China slipped past the FDA. The next one is from NBC News, dated September 23rd, just a few days ago. FDA explains blood pressure drug recall again. And the last one is also dated the same date, September 23rd, 2019, from CBS News. more blood pressure pills recalled over cancer-causing chemical. Everybody on this committee needs to know that we can't do anything that drives innovation to another country like China that could cause us to have a trained drug supply, or that one of these articles talks about pharmaceuticals from China could be used as the next weapon against us if it's all produced there. Thank you. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back.